Today is a very sad day because after 7 years of running this facility, we have now announced that we'll be closing the doors. Now, this facility has witnessed many transformations of men over the age of 35. Men like Martin, like Josh, like Darren, like Chris, and many more who maybe just like you were struggling to shift that stubborn fat, struggling with the energy, struggling to get in the shape that they thought they deserved to be in, despite putting all of the work in, doing all of the cardio, restricting calories, and doing everything the internet tells them to do. When you run a facility like this, you get to witness kind of the biggest mistakes that guys are making when it comes to their training. And I want to use this opportunity today to run you through those big 8 mistakes that guys make that really holds them back from transforming their body and essentially keeps them fat and out of shape. Mistake number 1 is showing up to the gym without any real plan or structure. This simply leads to you winging it in the gym, picking only machines that you're comfortable with, and so you keep doing the same things and it doesn't drive a result. Too many men turn up to the gym and just do 20 minutes on the cardio and do the same movements that they've done for the past, 8, 9, 10 weeks. And the problem with that is they are not stimulating the muscle. What you need to have in place is a program that hits all of your different body parts in a way that isn't necessarily comfortable for you, actually challenges you with movements that you wouldn't typically do, and where you can have the same framework, the same consistent sessions that you repeat and progress week on week. Without this, you're never going to make the changes that you want to make. Here's a really quick tip for this. Look, ideally you would have someone who could program for you, like a coach. However, if you don't want to go down that route, you can simply get ChatGPT to develop you a really simple training plan. The key with this is you just want to create, maybe 3 to 5 sessions that you're going to repeat every single week, and make sure no matter how you feel, no matter how motivated you are, you turn up to the gym and you do those sessions every week. Now, the key for you is to stay consistent and progress every single week. I can guarantee you, if you do this and you work on the execution of those sessions, you will see progress, but make sure you're hitting all body parts and do not skip legs. Mistake number 2, doing cardio first at the start of your session. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see, because what cardio will do is it will exhaust your fuel sources before you go into your weights. When it comes to building muscle, when it comes to getting into shape, what you want to think about is you need as much energy as you possibly can to put into your weightlifting, because the goal is to get as strong as you can and build as much muscle as you can. Why that's good for fat loss is because the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolic rate and the better you're going to look all around. If you do cardio first, especially high intense cardio, you're going to exhaust things like carbohydrates and glucose in the tissue. And then when you come to lifting weights, you're not going to be as strong and you're not going to recover as well, meaning you're not going to progress. And that's the biggest part of developing a physique and getting in shape, is being able to progress your movements. Here's your tip for cardio. You can do maybe 5 minutes of low intense cardio prior to your session just to warm the body up and get your system prepared. However, when it comes to any form of intense cardio or prolonged cardio, even if it's zone 2, save that for the end of your session once you've already exhausted your strength training. This is really important because you're going to get the most out of your lifting, but then you're also going to be able to burn calories and improve your cardiovascular health at the end of your session when it doesn't matter as much. Number 3, avoiding cardio altogether. This is super common because guys have this fear around cardio that if you do cardio, you're going to lose muscle tissue, or you're not going to be able to build muscle tissue at the level that you would like to, which is completely false. The reality is, if you're a man over 35, your cardiovascular efficiency is going to decline faster than your muscle tissue if you don't protect it properly. And why that's so important is because the less efficient your cardiovascular system is, the worse your recovery. So when you're doing your lifting and you're recovering between sets, you need to be able to recover efficiently, and that will be heavily determined by your cardiovascular system. Your recovery is going to determine how hard you can push in your next set. Again, we're looking for that progressive overload. So if you can recover well, you're going to be able to lift heavier with that too. Being cardiovascularly fit throughout each of those zones is also very important for things like metabolic flexibility, allowing you to use different nutrients at different levels. This is essentially going to allow you to burn body fat better and build muscle more efficiently. And it's also important for mitochondrial function, which is key for energy and also energy metabolism, things like triglycerides and fatty acid metabolism and fat burning essentially, but also glucose metabolism within the cells too. Here's my tip for cardio. always try and use multiple forms. I like a foundation of zone 2 cardio, that's that kind of 60 to 70% as a base. For maybe 2 to 3 hours per week is ideal, but even an hour is good if you are short on time. At the end of your workouts, once you've done your strength lifting, I really like us to test the cardiovascular system, doing some form of interval training. Now, the key with this is you're not doing this for 30 minutes, 40 minutes or beyond multiple times a week, because that can be too taxing for the system. I really like just doing somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes for very, very high intensity output, followed by short rest periods in between. This is really good to test your cardiovascular system and build up your VO2 max. Mistake number 4, and this is a super common one I used to see a lot in here, is trying to keep your heart rate up with all sorts of crazy exercises between your strength lifting. This is the absolute worst thing you can do, because your rest periods are so important. And if you're doing burpees or jumping jacks or anything that keeps that heart rate elevated in your rest periods, what's going to happen is you're going to go back into your set, which is the most important part of the session, and you're going to feel exhausted. You're not going to get out as many reps and you're not going to progress. So your physique is not going to change. So here's my tip for this. If you're a man who simply can't sit still between your sets, instead of exhausting yourself with all sorts of, high intensity exercises, just walk up and down the gym, getting your steps in between your sessions. This is not high intense enough to kind of fatigue you between your sessions, but it will still help you burn calories and keep your expenditure up and occupy your mind, because that's the real problem here, is you just can't sit still, right? Number 5, not focusing on proper form. Again, super common. The reality is, it isn't just about showing up when it comes to the gym. You have to be able to stimulate the muscle properly, and just moving the weight from A to B isn't going to cut it. You need to focus on controlling the weight, keeping tension on the muscle throughout the movement, and ensuring you're taking the movement through the full active range of movement. Now, I have a full video on my YouTube channel that will take you through everything you need to think about when it comes to form in the gym. So after this video, if you're not sure how you should be training, just follow on to that video. But the key here is really this. Make sure when it comes to your lifting, you are actually present and intentional with every set and every rep. You're not kind of looking around the gym like this, just flinging the weight around. You are really present, you're really locked in, and your focus is on how much can I get out of this muscle and how hard can I push. Because if you're not actually putting yourself in a position to stimulate the muscle, which is going to be done through pushing hard with good form, then you're not going to see the changes that you want to make. Here's my tip for this one, and it's really simple. Rather than thinking about the weight that you're trying to move, think about the muscle that you're trying to work. This is called creating the mind to muscle connection. So on this movement, I'm working the quad. So rather than thinking about lifting this, what I'm thinking about is how can I contract my quad as hard as possible and maintain tension. Remember, we have 2 main phases of the movement. We have the concentric phase, which is when you're contracting the muscle, and then we have the eccentric phase when you're stretching the muscle. The biggest mistake guys make with this is that, okay, they'll contract the muscle, but when they relax it and stretch it, they actually take away the tension. What we want to think about is squeeze the muscle hard. I've got peak contraction here. And as I go down, I want to keep the tension in. So I'm almost contracting the muscle in reverse. I'm not going to relax it, it's still got tension on. And then I'm going to squeeze. So throughout the 10, 12, 15 reps that I have in a set, I've never lost tension. And you're going to feel completely different when you do this as opposed to just moving the weight. Number 6, overtraining. This is one of the most common things that I've seen guys spending every single day in here, sometimes coming twice, training 20, 25, 30 plus sets in a session, and just thinking the more they train, the better the results are going to be. That is not the case. There is a sweet spot for results. You have to meet your body's recovery capabilities and find that sweet spot for your body. More does not equal better. You need to do enough sets to stimulate growth and stimulate the change that you want to see, but not too many that you're simply digging a hole of recovery so deep that you can't get out of, which is what so many guys do. Here's my tip for this one. Rather than doing endless amounts of sets, just start with the minimal effective dose, anything from 12 to 16 sets, which may seem small to you if you've been doing this great number, but focus on quality over quantity, and then monitor the changes that you're seeing from those sets and be consistent, as we said earlier, with those sessions, and then you have room to progress. Ultimately, if you're on 30 sets already, there is no room to progress. Start with your 12 to 16, build up, and maybe, you know, a couple of months down the line, you could be doing 20, 22, 24, but that is about the most you want to be including in one single session anyway. The key thing to understand here when it comes to how much you're training is more doesn't equal better, especially if you're a man over 35 and the body has changed to a degree with your recovery. Maybe hormones aren't the same, maybe your cortisol levels are higher because of your lifestyle, maybe testosterone levels are lower. You're actually going to make things worse if you're training too much. So really, really important that you take note of this point. Number 7, and we've kind of mentioned this already, but not resting properly between sets. This is super important that you get right, because your rest is essentially the recalibration, the re-energizing before you go into your next lift where you're aiming to progress. Now, we spoke about maybe trying to keep your heart rate up and why that's a big mistake, but too often I see guys resting, but not resting enough. If you've done a big lift, like a leg press, like a hack squat, like any kind of squatting movement, deadlift or anything like this, you actually need to be resting for at least 2 minutes. I would say 2 to 3 minutes for your bigger lifts, 90 seconds as a minimum. This will be enough time to allow you to recover and prepare yourself for the next set. Here's my simple tip for this. When it comes to big compound lifts like leg press, squats, all those things I just spoke about before, we want to think about a minimum of 2 minutes, sometimes upwards of 3 minutes, to allow your nervous system as much as your muscle tissue to actually recover for the next lift. When it comes to smaller, more isolation-based movements like maybe bicep curls or triceps extensions, you can go as low as 90 seconds, but you don't really want to go less than that if you want to recover properly. Also, a final tip on this one. Don't get distracted. Don't rest too much scrolling through your phone and not giving your full attention to the session at hand, because that will also kill your results. And finally, number 8, thinking that the work you do in here is all you really need to think about. I've seen this so many times from being a one-to-one personal trainer and running group coaching sessions where guys would come in here and run themselves into the ground, working for hours and hours and hours, and then go home and eat what they want, not look after their sleep, not look after their stress, and essentially see no results because of it. What you have to think about is the work you do in here is just the stimulus for the adaptation. The adaptation takes place when you recover, when you give yourself enough protein to recover, when you sleep at night, when you do all those things outside of here. The gym is about 20% of the work. Yes, it's important, but the stuff you do outside of here is almost even more important. So here's a simple tip for this. Yes, come in the gym and work hard, push yourself, do the work in here, but then make sure when you go home, you are getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. You're getting enough protein in, you're fueling properly, you're giving yourself proper rest time outside of here, and you're doing all of the things that actually allow this stimulus to change the body in the way that you want it to change. So listen, if you're a man who feels like you've spent hours and hours and hours in the gym grinding away, but you still don't look or feel that much different than before you started, then take note of everything I've taken you through today, because if you fix these things, you're going to be able to get results like all of the guys that I've shown you here. Guys like Rod, guys like Chris, guys like Dale, guys like all these hundreds of guys that we've already got results with. And if you found this video helpful, inspiring, educational, or anything else, please hit subscribe for more videos like this. Send this video to a friend who needs to avoid making these mistakes for himself, and drop a comment if you have any questions at all, and I'm always happy to help. But for now, we're going to say our final goodbyes to this facility. Maybe we'll get another video shot in here before the time is done, and I'll see you in the next video where I'm going to take you through the exact form in the gym that's going to help you get results like all of the guys we've worked with. Oh, and if you're still watching now, I think I speak for every single gym owner in the world when I say this, but the most important tip of all is put your weights away once you're done. That'll help you get better gains.